بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. I am Basir Al-Tai. I am professor of physics, theoretical physics. I did my postgraduate studies at Manchester University already a long time ago. I obtained my PhD in 1978 in quantum cosmology, you can say, or quantum field theory in curved space-time. So it's very profound theoretical subject, theoretical physics subject. The topic which I am talking about today is Daqiq al-Kalam, the Islamic philosophy of science. This is a topic which Daqiq al-Kalam, I encountered this subject already in I started my study in 89, and I published my first paper on the subject in 1994 in English. Later on I published many Arabic articles, and lately, a few years ago, in 2010, I published my book Daqiq al-Kalam, the Islamic approach to natural philosophy. The book now is translated into English and will be published hopefully in the next few months. I am delighted to be here, and I would like to thank the professor, the head of the department, the head of this important, very important department, and Dr. Omran for arranging or organizing this occasion. This is a new trend, actually, in Islamic studies, you can say. And one can go back and see where are the roots of Daqiq al-Kalam. In fact, we have the roots laid in the original Kalam. Yes. In the original Kalam. So what's Kalam and what's Mutakallimun? Mutakallimun are the practitioners of Kalam. Mutakallimun were a group of Islamic theologians or Muslim theologians and thinkers appeared during the 2nd century after Hijrah. And they continued to be effective until actually the 6th century after Hijrah, the 12th century AD. Their ideas remained to be a vital part of Islamic theology until now, actually. So it's a dialogue also. Means the discourse. Philosophically, when we identify Kalam, we say it's a collection of concepts, assumptions, principles, problems that tries to explain the relation between God and the physical world in accordance with the Islamic creed. Obviously, it has to, Kalam, the original Kalam, dealt with Islamic creed, dealt with the proofs of Islamic aqidah. Why Muslims believe in such and such God, why God is one, why God is the creator, the active creator, etc., etc. But then, at the same time, Mutakallimun had another interest. Yeah. Mutakallimun had another interest not only in the divinity but in nature, and they studied nature according to their approach, or the Islamic approach. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes. And they had two branches of Kalam. We have Jalil al-Kalam, which deals with the problems related to divine attributes, resurrection of the dead, and the questions related to divine knowledge, will, and power, etc. Ghaybiyat, ilahiyat, we call ilahiyat. And the other, also man's free will and the counter proposal of self-acquisition. Can I have the next slide? Yes. And we have the other branch, Daqiq al-Kalam. Daqiq means fine. It deals with the problems of natural philosophy, space, time, matter, motion, force, any aspect of the physical nature, any physical aspect of nature is part of Daqiq. Everything. Properties of matter, etc., etc., etc. Anything in nature is part of the discussions or study of Daqiq al-Kalam. Here, by the way, comes also the question of, for example, causality. Because this has to be viewed in Islamic perspective. And that's why things come like the question of causality. It's not an empty subject. It has to be tied up with the Islamic belief, with the Islamic creed. Yes. There were two main schools of Kalam. The first one was al-Mu'tazila. Mu'tazila, they were formed in the beginning of, or not the beginning, yeah, it's nearly the first quarter of the 2nd century after Hijrah. In fact, they started their activities around 130 after Hijrah. And then there were the 200 years later nearly, the Ash'ari school. The Ash'ari school, after Mu'tazili, because of Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari, the founder of this school, found that some concepts and views of Mu'tazili are not in accordance with the original Islamic creed. They went too far on the rational assessment of the questions, and accordingly their views were perhaps too much rational, not considering the originality of Islamic ideas. Sources and methodology of Kalam. We have to know from the very beginning that Kalam is rival to philosophy. Kalam is not a philosophy. It's the other book of the Islamic book of philosophy, you can say, but not philosophy. Why? Because in methodology and views, it differs from philosophy. Not only in the views, but in methodology. And that's what we can figure out, that first of all, the source of knowledge in Kalam is the Quran. Very, very few mutakallimun bring hadith into discussion because of the problem of authenticity. They avoid using hadith, not because they don't like hadith, of course they like hadith, but they don't want to be on the weak side, and when they accuse that this hadith is not quite authentic, etc. So they go back to the Quran. And the Quran is well preserved. All Muslims acknowledge that this is the Quran, yes. No problem in. They have, no, can you please, yeah. So their methodology starts from God, from the revision, from the Quran. God is the Quran, is the Kalamullah, the word of God. Through reason, through the mind, analysis, they can view the world. They can understand the world. Yes, next slide, please. While philosophers, they start from nature. Through reason also, rational arguments, etc., they design God, so to speak. They can figure out what is God. Their ilahiyat is superstructure, the philosophers. The mutakallimun, the ilahiyat or the God, is the infrastructure of their system of thought. This is the difference. So it's completely different. Methodology is rational in both cases. Methodology, I mean, of analysis is rational. I could figure out that there are 5 principles in Daqiq al-Kalam. By the way, I didn't consider Jalil al-Kalam for one good reason. Jalil al-Kalam dealt, as we said, with ilahiyat, with divinity. And this is a very difficult and subtle subject to consider. I am a physicist. I want to consider something which I master. So here is my field. That's why I considered Daqiq al-Kalam. Obviously, I should also mention that it was unfortunate that by the year 425 after Hijrah, al-Qadir billah issued an order, a declaration called al-Qadir Declaration or al-Qadiri Declaration. Is the Khalifa of Abbasi Khalifa, banning Kalam. He banned Kalam. And he banned discussions and workshops, symposiums of Kalam, and collected the books of Kalam and throw it into the river. Now, because there were a conflict between Ash'arite and Mu'tazili. Very strong conflict. That conflict became violent at some stages. So al-Qadir billah said, stop it. You are spoiling Islam. And the reason of the conflict is not Daqiq al-Kalam, it's Jalil al-Kalam. This is another thing to learn. We should know that I am obviously giving you the results. I don't have time to give you the full authentication and references, and I am giving you the result. The details are in my book, Daqiq al-Kalam, The Islamic Approach to Natural Philosophy. They actually have their, in Daqiq al-Kalam, I could figure out 5 important principles of mutakallimun, rival to another 5 principles adopted by the philosophers. The 5 principles are, the following principles are: the first one is temporality, which says that the world have a beginning. The universe began with time. The universe has a beginning in time. Oh, with time, rather. With time. And it says that everything in the world is created. That's to say temporal. It's not eternal. Philosophers say eternal. Their principle number 1 is eternity. Here we have temporality. Yes. Recently, in this era, a philosopher called William Craig devised or recast the Kalam cosmological argument. He has a book published in 1979 under this title, the Kalam cosmological principle, and he wants to show that the Kalam cosmological argument, which is construed from the Kalam temporality principle. He wants to show that the Kalam argument here is very effective on the philosophical side, from the philosophical point of view. Obviously, he was encouraged by the Big Bang theory, and which, cosmology, modern cosmology, which says that the universe has a beginning. That was a good reason why he should publicize this argument. The second principle is atomism, or discreteness. Mutakallimun said the world is discrete. Everything in the world is atomized. It's composed of atoms, units. So they thought digital, you can say. Their way of thinking is digital. Even time, space, motion, time, etc., everything was matter, atomic. But here there should be one thing highlighted. The philosophers do have the Greek philosophers do have a small group of atomistic philosophers, Democritus. But the Greek atom is completely different from the Muslim atom, the Islamic atom. This is well explained in two books of the West. Shlomo Pins, the Spanish researcher, Jewish, he's a Jew, published a book in German called Islamic Studies in Atomism. It was published in 1936, I think, and was translated into Arabic 1948, and then translated 1997 or 98 by the Hebrew University into English for the first time, by the way. He analyzes the Islamic atomism, concept of atom according to Islam, and he says completely different from the Greek, completely different from the Indian concept of atom. I'll say why. Also, the other, the Harvard philosopher, scholar, Harry Wolfson, published a book, more than 900 pages, in 1976, titled The Philosophy of the Kalam. And he devotes more than 40 pages to discuss the Islamic atom. And he admits that the Islamic atom is completely different from the Greek. Although he believes, just as a belief, that the Islamic atom could have been borrowed from the Greek, from unwritten, from spoken Greek concepts. I don't know how that works. And the reason is very, very, very funny when he talks about this. Why Muslims created the atom in such a way. He says, I cannot understand how these Bedouins, in less than 100 years, could invent such developed concepts. And he forgets, he overlooks the fact that these Bedouins were converted first to Islam. And when they become Muslim, they become genius. Here is the meaning, the practical meaning of Islam, actually. Even in our life now, we live in a world, in fact, with mostly non-Islamic behavior and acts and thinking. We only know of Islam how to do maybe some rituals. Islam has turned into collection of rituals. You pray, you fast in Ramadan, sometimes you pay charity, and if you go to Umrah and Hajj. And that is Islam. Islam is not like that. I was delighted this morning to learn from the head of this department that there is a program which wants to implement the Islamic concepts of science and innovation and technological innovation to put it at work. And here we are. God has sent his messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and taught us great deal of detailed knowledge. But unfortunately, in this age, I mean, the modern age, we are not doing much at all. We're doing nothing to implement the real and actual views of Islam. Perhaps some of you had no idea that when you design a house, you can design it either Islamic or non-Islamic. And if you design a car, you can also think whether it's Islamic or not Islamic. Why? Priorities. What is the priority of a Muslim in design? Function, safety, economy, use, and economy. There are priorities. It's not the color, it's not the shape, it's not even the marketing. Marketing comes maybe number 6 or 7 or 8 in the priorities. Because Islam wants to serve human beings rather than يستغل making use of a human being and treat him like a machine. Human being is the slave of Allah only, not even the slave of any other one. So Islam wants to serve this human being. So he doesn't put marketing, for example, as a priority. Although it's important for sure. But Islam believes that the good qualities you provide in your work, whatever it is, will market it properly to the proper people, of course. Nevertheless, let's go back to the Islamic atom, composed of 2 parts. Why is different from Greek? Greek atom is one single element, the atom, the non-divisible. Meaning of atom in Greek, non-divisible parts. In Islam, it is also non-divisible, but composed or constructed out of 2 entities. One is abstract entities called Jawhar. You can call it essence. Some authors call it substance. It is not. Substance is not the Jawhar. Substance is the Aristotelian concept of Jawhar. I agree. And this is different, completely different from Islamic. Why? Jawhar, according to the original mutakallimun, is an abstract entity. It's an original abstract entity. And then the other component of the atom is the arad. Arad is the emergent property which is attached to the Jawhar. The Jawhar cannot stand alone as an existing object unless associated with arad. Once a jawhar associates with arad, we have the atom. We have the realization. So you have an abstract and an emergent existing property. But none of them can exist standalone. Jawhar cannot stand alone. Arad cannot stand alone. Both of them come and form the Islamic atom. The Jawhar is magnitudeless. And Harry Wolfson discusses, I think, in 4 or 5 pages. He was puzzled why it is magnitudeless. How could it be magnitudeless? Well, it's magnitudeless because it is abstract. It's something in theory, in the mind, as it is the Jawhar. Practically, the Jawhar cannot stand alone. Arad comes and get associated with it, and they become an atom. So it's a concept rather than existing thing. If you want to talk about the atom exists, can be measured, has a magnitude. But the Jawhar has no magnitude. Problem with authors in philosophy of science or philosophy of Kalam, including Noor al-Dhannani, who is also a Harvard scholar, studied under Abdul Hamid Sabra, I think. They identify the Jawhar as atom. And they translate the word Jawhar from the old writings of the Mutakallimun, atom. Wrong. The Jawhar is not atom. Jawhar plus Arad becomes an atom. So they are puzzled why it is magnitudeless. The Jawhar is magnitudeless, not the atom. And when they read another writings of the Mutakallimun, especially the late Mutakallimun, they see that the atom has a magnitude. Yes, it has. The atom has a magnitude. The Jawhar has no magnitude. Yes. The third principle is principle of recreation. Obviously, I can't give you, by the way, the sources of the Quranic sources for these principles. For example, temporality, خلق الله السماوات والأرض بالحق. خلق العالم كله. Several times in the Quran, it says the universe, including everything, is created by God. Atomism comes from the ayah وأحصى كل شيء عددا. وأحصى كل شيء عددا. One single ayah, one single verse inspired these mutakallimun to develop a view, a principle, a concepts. When it comes to recreation, they actually read Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyu al-qayyum. Qayyum means sustaining the universe. If God is the sustainer of the universe, and if he has the absolute free will, therefore the world cannot be deterministic. It has to be non-deterministic, indeterministic. If the world is deterministic, then it is hard to see any role for God in sustaining the universe. It's very hard to realize what is the meaning of Qayyum then. He's not Qayyum. If things behave according to the taba', to the nature, their inherent nature, and if things acts on their own without the need of a driver, then there is no need for a God. What for? It will be the Aristotelian prime mover who has created the universe and then resigned. Yeah. God in Islam, Allah, is not like that. Allah is Qayyum, active all the time, day and night, active in every piece, in every bit, in every atom. But He is active according to certain laws, which He devised, and we will learn about that in a moment. The way He intervenes in the universe is through recreation. This is the why Mutakallimun divided their atom to be composed of two things, the Jawhar and the Arad. The Arad is ever changing. The Jawhar is immutable, is fixed, is permanent. The Jawhar doesn't change, even theoretically. Not only practically, but even theoretically. The Arad is the emergent property carried out by the Jawhar. Changes billions times a second. Billions and billions of times a second. They say, الأعراض لا تبقى زمانين. Arad cannot stand for 2 instants of time. And instant means the smallest time ever you can think about. Cannot stand 2 instants of time. It changes. Through changing, the world becomes, by the way, indeterministic. When we work it out according to modern physics, if you change the position, it means that you made a move. Even if you recreate position, you made a move. Once you make a move, you introduce momentum, because momentum is the mass multiplied by the speed, the velocity. So if you make a move, if you recreate position, you are introducing momentum. And with successive operation of recreating the momentum now, I'll change the position. And that causes uncertainty, according to modern quantum mechanics. I can show it in mathematics. I have done that and published it. So events in nature are indeterministic. I can drop this, leave it free, and it will fall. In classical physics, until 1900, nobody could think of any chance that if I drop, say, this pen from my hand, that it will never drop. It could never drop. Oh, sorry, it could not drop. It has to drop. It's a must. It's a deterministic world. It's the Laplace principle of determinism. Pierre Laplace, the French. Based on Newtonian mechanics and Newtonian theory of gravity. But after 1900, a new era in physics was started, and that was modern physics. They discovered quantum mechanics, and they discovered the theory of relativity, space-time relativity, by which we now learn that actually there is a non-zero probability. Very small, yes, I agree, for this pen not to fall if I release it. There is a non-zero probability, theoretically, of course. But we don't see it because it's very, 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 very small probability. Perhaps we need the whole age of the universe to see it happening once. But in your cellular phones, there are thousands of crystals in which there are electrons. And these electrons are crossing the walls of the crystal to pass the electric current, while these electrons cannot pass. Why? Because their energy is less than the barrier energy. The barrier is too high to cross. Nevertheless, according to indeterminism, they pass. And that's how your cell phone works, the mobile phone works. If there is no such thing, if there is no quantum mechanics, your mobiles will not work. And to make a mobile of much less than such properties we have, specification, we need the size of this building or more, according to the analog classical electronics. And we will need a power station to provide electricity, and also we will need huge air conditioning to cool it down. Because you will use then the valves, the old valves, which are like heaters. So, indeterminism is actual fact in nature now. We understand why even, not only we understand there isn't. Yeah. The other slide, please. We have the, before that we had the probability. Yeah, the universe accordingly, or the world is probabilistic. So as I said, events in nature happen probabilistically. Nobody can say that any event will 100% happen. He can say 99 point, and he puts whatever number of nines he like. You can do that, but you can never say 100%. This is not the case. The question is, who is playing with these probabilities? Who is choosing with the probability? I will come to discuss or answer this later. The fifth principle is the principle, what I call, of relativity. Ibn Hazm, who died 382 after Hijrah, said the philosophers define time and space to be absolute. But we Muslims have different concepts. Our space and time is not absolute. Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, in his Tahafut al-Falasifa, the book, The Incoherence of the Philosophers, he said time should be treated on equal footing as space. In Arabic he says, فَالْبُعْدُ الزَّمَانِ كَالْبُعْدِ الْمَكَانِ. تماما. It is relative because it is like the فوق تحت, the above and the below. So time before and after is also relative. You should have a reference. These ideas, I should stress, were only known to the world, Western world, in 1905, after Albert Einstein proposed the theory of relativity, special relativity actually, in the beginning, and then general relativity. Also, Muslims, especially Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, stress that space has no meaning without time, time has no meaning without space. And here they derive it from the Arabic. I mean, if you say the source, what's the source? Is it the Quran? No, it's not the Quran. They derive the meanings or these concepts from Arabic. When you say, I come to see you, you will ask me when and where. So space is related to time, and time related to space always, in Arabic. You have to define even the definition of time according to al-Jurjani, by the way. Sharif al-Jurjani is beautifully write about time according to Kalam, or the concept of time according to Mutakallim. Also, they stress that there is no space and time did not exist before the creation of the universe. So there is no question what God was doing before creating the universe. I mean, this question was posed to Saint Augustine before Muslims, before Mutakallim. And Saint Augustine answered, he was preparing hell to those who ask such questions. It's just a sense of humor, actually, rather than a serious answer. But Al-Ghazali answers why, in details. Although they say some of the ideas of Al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid Al-Ghazali, were taken from Saint Augustine. But if you look in details with a magnifying glass on what Al-Ghazali is saying, you discover that Al-Ghazali is much more richer, because he is explaining why. Augustine didn't explain why. Okay, can I have the other slide, please?
How about time? Can it be quantized?
Yes, indeed. As I said, atomism, everything is atomized. According to Mutakallimun, time has to be quantized. Time is quantized. In physics now, until this day, nobody has suggested quantization of time in full sense. They made slicing of time. But slicing of time is not time quantization. Based on the Mutakallimun influence on me as a physicist, I would expect that we cannot achieve the dream of quantum gravity without quantizing time. If we quantize time, we can explain many things, including telepathy, by the way, and parapsychology. Okay. Some thoughts of Mutakallimun or Daqiq al-Kalam echoes with some contemporary concepts and principles of modern physics, quite clear. In general, you can say of modern science, because it applies to chemistry, it applies to biology also. To achieve the goal of utilizing this in our view of modern science, we need to carry some detailed investigations, Doctor. And this is the job of this department you are, or the curricula you are preparing. Detailed investigations, of course, leading to degree, MSc or PhD, or private research, or scholar research. But there is a lot to do. A mass of research we have to do in order to analyze the concepts, identify the principle and substantiate the principle, and also apply it to problems of physics, of chemistry, of marketing, we can apply that. But then it needs research. It's a raw material that we have here. This raw material has not been utilized yet until this time. Because you can say the Islamic thinking stopped around 700 after Hijrah. Now we are 1400 after Hijrah. 700 years sleeping. We need to wake up again. We need to behave as Muslims, true Muslims, for the benefit of humanity. Not to say you are kafir, you are murtad, you are whatever. This is not the deal of Islam. The deal of Islam is to serve people, no matter whether they are Muslims or not. And I believe this way, this area of this part of the world were converted to Islam. At the time, no conqueror came to Malaysia or China or into China or Malaysia, correct? Or Indonesia. It was all through contact. They experienced the proper Islamic way of life, and they followed it. So if we become good Muslim and serve the people, achieve the true message of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, true message of Islam, not to say you are kafir, you are murtad, you easily killing people, easily burning the universities, burning the libraries in my original home country, in Iraq and in Mosul. They burned the University of Mosul. The library, the whole library was set on fire under the name of Allahu Akbar, the Islam. Killing people. Kafir, murtad. This should stop. This is a shame. These are not Muslims. Nothing to do with Islam. Satanic Islam, if they claim that they are Muslims. And the sheikhs should declare it, that these are not Muslims. Whoever will be their references, even if they claim that their references are Shaykh al-Islam or whatever, or Ahmed ibn Hanbal or whatever, they are not Muslims. We should denounce not the act only, but the original concept and the basis of the verdict when we taken on a true Muslim to be murtad. Why murtad? Because he smokes a cigarette, for example, or made some sins. So this is also another topic. Please. As I said a few minutes ago, until 1900 AD, nobody would have accepted the principles of Daqiq al-Kalam. If you go to any physicist, he will say this is nonsense. Because the world is continuous, the world is eternal, is continuous, is deterministic, is everything is in place, is well ordered, no change in the things, there is no recreation. But after 1900, and the space-time are absolute, obviously. After 1900, we have the theory of relativity, 1905, and quantum mechanics, which already started 1901 with Max Planck discovering the quantization of energy. And here where we find that the principles, the 5 principles of Daqiq al-Kalam at work, at real work. What is the present status in the world? There are, I mean in the Western world, I don't mean the Islamic world. The Islamic world, as I said, is sleeping. He doesn't know anything about Kalam or modern physics. Unfortunately, I mean, I regret to say that. In the developing world, we have scientists, well-known names, confusing between the laws of nature and laws of physics. We have also people attributing action to these laws. that it is the law which makes. Given the laws of physics, Paul Davies says, or Stephen Hawking, Krauss said, given the laws of physics, the universe can be created spontaneously out of nothing. Stephen Hawking says God has no role to play in the creation of the universe. It is gravity which creates the universe. The problem is their misunderstanding of the laws of physics and laws of nature. Assuming determinism, by the way. Until now, many scientists work in quantum mechanics, but they think in a deterministic way. To think in indeterministic way, it doesn't mean that you abolish causality. No. You only be aware all the time, alerted, not to assume absolute causality or what we call this deterministic causality. That's all. But you obviously, you have to talk with, you have to work and act with causes. You should fix this properly with nails in order to have it fixed, otherwise it will fall. You shouldn't say I fix it with just arbitrarily and God will take care of everything else. If God wants it to fall, it will fall. The wrong thinking, bad Muslim, like my sister, I say to her on the phone, she's in Mosul in Iraq, so many people were killed for no good reason. And she says, yes, I know, I'm living with them. But mind you, it is their fate to get killed. This is a wrong understanding of the fate in Islam. I know that it is God who would decide when I will die, which moment, not even which day, but which moment, which second, which I know. But it doesn't, it's not acceptable that somebody comes and kill me for nothing, and he say, well, it was written that he will die on this moment, by this means. It is God who has written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz that this is the wrong understanding. So in Islam, by the way, when you learn that the world is indeterministic, etc., it doesn't mean that you give up following, because in that case you are overlooking one very important fact. Can I have the next slide, please? You are ignoring one important fact, that God has created this universe bil-haqq. Bil-haqq means by law, because haqq means justice, correct? It means justice. Justice cannot be achieved without a balance, without a reference. You have to have a reference. What is just and what is unjust? And the only reference in this case is the law. God is not ruling the universe chaotically or miraculously. Miracles are very rare, and God in the Quran specifically have stressed several times that miracles are no longer to be sent. وَمَا مَنَعَنَا أَن نُرْسِلَ بِالْآيَاتِ إِلَّا أَن كَذَّبَ بِهَا الْأَوَّلُونَ. Yeah. He left the Quran as the great miracle of all the time. The Quran. ألف لام راء تلك آيات الكتاب المبين. L R R, it means the letters. The words, the Arabic words, these are the ayatullah. You understand it and you read, you should read. Read. Yesterday I was very delighted to see on the doors of the lifts of the university we visited, Iqra. This is innovative, by the way. This is inspiring. Iqra. In Arabic. Anyway, laws of nature are the phenomena, by the way. Just to give you the right, proper information in this respect, laws of nature are the phenomena without specifying any explanation for the phenomena. I see the cotton getting burned by fire. When I throw it to fire, it will burn. I don't know about molecular structure, etc., and energy levels. I don't need to know that. It's the phenomena which is repeated. It has a regularity. Then it is a law. Eclipse, sun eclipse, etc. These laws are obviously fixed. Do not change. And they are laws of nature, the laws of nature. But they are indeterministic, according to quantum mechanics. Events are probabilistic, and phenomena are events. Correct? Therefore, phenomena are indeterministic. Therefore, again, they cannot do by themselves inherently. They have no authority, no power. They need to be driven. Some agency should order the phenomena to happen. That is the Kalam understanding, by the way. While laws of physics are our own description of the phenomena. I see this falling, I observe it 100 times and make records, observations, calculate the velocity, etc. I deduce the law of a free fall. I bring the law of Newton. I say, aha, the pen is falling because there is a mutual force between the pen and the mass of the earth. And by measurements, observations and measurements, I deduce that the force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance and directly proportional to the multiplication of the masses. And I call this law of gravity. But this law is actually the Newtonian picture of gravity. 250 years later comes somebody called Albert Einstein, and he tells us, no, this is nonsense. The concept of gravity is curved space-time. Completely different in concept and in calculations, by the way. So laws of physics can change always, and as we discover new facts. Can I have the other slide, please? Yes. What is the importance of the law? In 2 words. If you don't have a law, the universe has to be run miraculously, or it will be chaotic. In fact, even if it is run miraculously, it is chaotic. Because you don't know what miracle will happen when and at where. And where. There is an interesting philosopher called Nancy Cartwright. Is a British philosopher. She was working in London School of Economics, head of the Department of Philosophy of Science. And she says, if there is no God, there is no law. I'm not sure whether she is a theist in the first place, but this is not necessary. She deduced in a paper, published paper, no God, no law. Can I have the other side? Because the order will be lost then. Well, a law works once the required conditions are made available. Newtonian mechanics and gravity, this happens. And that's why Laplace thought that the world is deterministic. In modern physics, this is no longer correct. Wave-particle duality and the uncertainty principle, which are part of quantum mechanics, this has all what we have technologies in this era are based on modern physics and modern sciences, modern biology, modern chemistry, which is based, by the way, after all, on physics. As I already mentioned, actually, this, can you have the other slide, please? Some scientists believe that the laws we are discovering, for example, the law of gravity, are actually the mind of God. It means to say, it's Paul Davies actually, that the whole sum of laws of physics, biology, chemistry, etc., form the mind of God. This is not correct again. Because, as I said, the laws are our mind, not the mind of God. What's the evidence? They change. God will not change his law of gravity in 250 years' time between Newton and Einstein. The law of gravity is the law of gravity according to God. Who knows? We don't know what it is, actually. We know the phenomena, which is the law of nature. But we accordingly find that this law should be operated by a transcendental agency is needed to drive the law, to make the law working. Laws of physics, as I said, are our scribes of or description of laws of nature. Our description. Yes, so this is, unfortunately, is wrong. By the way, John Polkinghorne also tries to say he is frightened from the idea that God intervenes in every bit of the universe. So he wants to limit his movement, and he say it's not a puppeteer. Meaning to say that there is some sort of collaboration between God and the world. And this is actually an old Islamic philosophy of Ibn Rushd. Ibn Rushd, Averroism. This is Averroism. That God and the world are cooperating. Not only, by the way, John Polkinghorne, who is a theist, he is a physicist, particle physicist. Originally, he was a good Cambridge particle physicist. But now he works in science and religion. I visited him at home in 2010. Very nice person, very knowledgeable, great scholar. But again, I told him this is not the case. You don't have to be frightened that God interferes in every bit of the universe for one good reason. You don't know what God thinks. You don't know what God will do. You have to acknowledge God and move in life
Can we see
the way you see the life. قل سيروا في الأرض فانظروا كيف بدأ فاسعوا في مناكبها وكلوا من رزقه وإليه النشور. You don't know how the nushur will happen, so you don't have to think much about how God knows, what is the knowledge of God, what He has written in the Lawh al-Mahfuz. I don't care about that. It's not my business. We should realize the limits of our reason, our brain. Our brain have many functions to do, of course, great responsibilities. But then we should know that all this is limited also. Obviously, the necessity of God comes from the fact that we need God to operate this world. Otherwise, even the world will not exist. The indeterministic laws cannot be effective. Physics laws are only our prescription or description for what's going on, and therefore we need God for that purpose. Such a God, or such an agency, if you like, you call it an agency, has to be transcendental and cannot be part of the world, because if God, as Einstein or Spinoza claims, God is the whole sum of the laws of this universe, the order in this universe. This is not possible, because if he's a member of the group, then the laws of that group will apply to him, and he will need a driver again. And that's why he's not part of the universe. God cannot be part of the world. God has to be transcendental from a logical point of view, logical reasoning, not religious instructions. It's a logical reason. I would rather stop here and thank you for such a marvelous audience I have this morning. Thank you.